left and Caleb on the right. Caleb, yeah, he's playing that Garbodor, he's playing Carbinks, he's playing Buzzwoles. It's a very interesting list.
Yeah, even has that Espeon EX. Don't know if he's got Potown in there potentially. Don't see one, so maybe just can sneak a nice de-evolution against Philip. He doesn't play Kirlia. So once those candies get played, maybe we could see him get locked out.
Yeah, run him out of enough rare candies. I do like to see on Caleb's list actually both types of Garbodors. So you have the Trash Launch Garbodor, which can do quite a lot of damage. We'll hit those Buzzwoles for weakness. And we do have a lot of decks running around with Puzzle of Times and a lot of just item cards being thrown around everywhere.
Max Elixirs.
Yeah, so it can really take advantage of that, and some people are maybe not so looking after their discard piles as much anymore. Just happy to throw away willy-nilly item cards and just use them whenever. On the flip side, he also has the other Garbodor, the one that has Garbotoxin. Abilities are running around rampant at the moment. You have Trade, Bloodthirsty Eyes, which we just saw.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Philip's deck. Gardevoir has an ability, Gallade has an ability, Zoroark has an ability, Lele has an ability, Mew, Giratina, everyone has an ability except for the Rolts and the Zorua. So if you can get that Garbotoxin locked in, which I'm assuming Caleb is playing a list that's focused on getting it on the second turn, we could see Philip struggle. He does only have 2 Field Blower, which could be pretty difficult for him.
It can really, really disrupt you're possibly not even going to hit your Field Blowers at the right time. And if Caleb's smart with his placement of the tools as well, it means that Philip won't be able to Field Blower off multiple tools at once. You want to give your opponent too many options for what they can do.
Absolutely.
So as long as he's got those four float zones, he also runs 4 Fighting Fury Belts if he absolutely must attach those to a Garbodor. But yeah, a lot of options to lock out the abilities of his opponent, and yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, see both of the prize card cams, Caleb prizing 2 Trubbish and 2 Sycamore, so little difficult for him. Philip did not prize any of those Field Blowers that we know are going to be so important, so looks like we're going to have a pretty great match coming up for you guys.
And I wonder if Philip's aware of what his opponent's playing, and if he knows how important a card like Mew EX can be as well, because it looks like Caleb's primary attacker is that Buzzwole, if not that Garb. Both of which are weak to the Mew EX.
That's right. The one scary spot could be if you play that Mew EX, but you aren't able to use your ability.
Yeah.
You kind of just pass the turn. So.
Yeah, and so here we see from Caleb, turn 1, Tapu Lele, probably going to find himself a Bridget just to get multiple Pokemon in play and set himself up. Another option, sometimes they play Lily, and he does play a 1 Lily, so they're the 2 supporters you're going to look for in your opening hand, Lily or a Bridget.
Absolutely. He also has 2 Ultra Ball in his hand, so if he wanted to play his hand all the way down and get 8 cards, that was an option for him, but looks like he's eyeing up that Bridget. Maybe having 2 Trubbish changes his mind and makes him want to go after that Lily instead, but no, seems pretty content right now. Just going to go ahead and grab those. Use those Ultra Balls later, and he can lock in Garbotoxin.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to have to sort of work around with just having 2 Trubbish, though, because as we were talking about before, very important to get that Garbotoxin online and have it stay online, so you're blocking those trades and that Secret Spring as well.
Yeah, that means we might not even see Trash Lance Garbodor come into play if he's just going to focus on those Garbotoxins with his only 2 Trubbish. And,
I mean, in the past, also he's playing a Tapu Lele as well, a second Tapu Lele, though he's already played a supporter, probably just to set himself up for next turn, saying, I have this Sycamore, I'm going to use it next turn.
Yeah, it's pretty safe that to assume that Philip is going to be using a Bridget on his opening turn, so it doesn't hurt now to just get that Sycamore into your hand and play as many cards as you can as well.
And one card we haven't actually seen much of on the stream so far is that Fighting Fury Belt. A lot of players now opting for their tool of choice, having that choice band. Fortunately, there goes the Fighting Fury Belt. But it also means that he's just spent one of his Field Blowers.
Yeah, I think that means that Philip's going to play a Sycamore, and that's what it is. He would never play down that Field Blower if he had anything else, but he knew that it was going in the discard pile anyways. Precious resource that you find now with Puzzle at times, and it's going to be pretty hard to find all that when you don't have anything going for you and you're playing into Garbotoxin.
I mean, Caleb does have to get that Garbotoxin line with a tool, and there is another way to get rid of that Garbotoxin, knock out the Garbodor.
Yeah.
So there are options available, but it does make it that one little step more difficult to be able to get your abilities back online. Interesting that he's put down this Giratina promo. not at all useful in this matchup.
That's right.
I don't believe Caleb's playing any break Pokemon.
I think he's just trying to avoid getting benched out.
Yeah, certainly. But he has found that Lele, which he will be able to use.
Yeah, and that's going to work out well for him. Of course, he wants to use the ability before he's under a Garbotoxin lock, find himself a supporter. Also going to get his counts in just now to see what's going on in his prize cards.
Yeah, definitely. On the note of that Fighting Fury belt, does make it even more difficult for that Gardevoir to be able to achieve a knockout on the Buzzwole.
Absolutely.
Same for the... Obviously, Zoroark's never going to achieve a one-hit knockout on the Buzzwole anyway. But just means Gardevoir needs those extra energies to be able to get that knockout. And Buzzwole doesn't do you any favors because it typically doesn't have that many energy attached to it.
That's right. When you see Buzzwole and it's partnered with this Garbodor, you're only going to see one energy generally on a Buzzwole unless it's just going for a big finish. You're not going to see the Max Elixirs raining down onto these Buzzwoles like you did with Michael Pramwat's deck or with Jimmy Pendarvis. Instead, you're just going to see him content with one energy, Fighting Fury Belt. Nice slow game where his opponent can't do anything.
I think that's a pass from Philip Shulz, and this is certainly not the turn one he was looking for. He wanted down some Rolts, he wanted down some Zoruas, so he'd get some Zoroark GX in play next turn and get some Gardevoir in play. Certainly not the optimal turn, and Caleb for his turn has actually got the Float Zone onto the Trubbish, which is going to be safe for quite a while unless Philip can find his second and only Field Blower.
Yeah, found the wrong Garbodor off the top deck, off those 7 cards. It was looking for Garbotoxin. He already's down 2 Ultra Ball, so it was pretty difficult to find the Garbotoxin, but that does mean that Philip's going to have 1 extra turn.
Oh, another reason that Giratina is quite useful in this matchup is that it does have that fighting resistance.
That's right.
So, you know, that Buzzwole is still going to be hitting into it, but just for not quite as much.
Yeah, he can buy himself a few turns, actually. Maybe survive 3 of these shots from Buzzwole now. Fortunately,
the card that won't survive 3 shots is that Zorua, unless it becomes Zoroark GX. So if Caleb can just start applying pressure immediately, I think Philip... I don't know if that's a bit of a resigned hand holding there, but it's going to go into his Buzzwole.
I think Phillips is just like, please do not have Garbodor.
Yeah, which, unfortunately for Caleb, he does not. It goes into the Tapu Lele, retreating that Trubbish into the Tapu Lele.
Yeah, maybe a nod to playing a Guzma in the future turn, but I don't see too much of a negative from coming up and getting some damage down onto the Giratina and the Zorua.
Yeah, just applying some pressure straight away. Trying to see what's in Philip's hand here. I'm not sure that he has the Zoroark GX. He probably would have put it down straight away and taken advantage of that trade. Yeah. But yeah, he is even a couple of turns behind now. Unfortunately, he has no routes down. He's not going to get a Gardevoir anytime soon. We do see a Mew EX in his hand, which is really quite a useful card, but when you don't have great attacks to copy, you know, Energy Drive's not going to be hitting for weakness. It's a bit difficult. And here we see the Bridget, which was what he wanted on his first turn.
Yeah, I think that actually that Mew EX was the key to why he didn't bring up the Buzzwole. He was trying to avoid Floatstone, Mew, DCE being a knockout on his Buzzwole if a Riotous beating Zoroark came into play. And all of that happens, and Philip did have the options. Caleb very wisely avoided all of that and is going to hope to find a Garbodor in the coming turns.
Yeah, certainly very clever play, and this would be a great
Now over to Caleb's side, he does have the other Garbodor. He chose not to evolve into it. Obviously wants to leave those spots available for Garbotoxin, and I don't know what else much he has in his hand. Maybe the Guzma, a lot of strong energies, but I don't know if you want to lose all those with a Sycamore. He might just want to wait a little bit longer.
He also has a second Floatstone, and I think it's interesting that he's chosen not to put it down on the other Trubbish, simply because he doesn't want Philip to be able to get max value out of his Field Blower and get rid of both the Floatstones at once. It's a pretty clever play. And here I think finally he's got a Guzma. He can go into the Buzzwole and put a lot of pressure down onto that Zoroark GX.
Yeah, this is a very strong play. He's going to be able to get, I believe it's 120 damage onto this Zoroark here.
Which is not too shabby.
Yeah, that works out very well. And also
about it. Gallade, how valuable do you think it is in this matchup?
It can be fairly useful. The problem with the psychic
playing really intelligently here. He's not putting down Garbotoxin, although I'm sure he would if he had it. But he's also leaving those spots open for
That's right.
And so we see, for example, here goes an Ultra Ball, a Choice Band, and he's actually throwing away the Mew EX.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a nod to just what the rest of his hand is, if he's going to be able to play down most of his hand now, or if he thinks it's going to be a puzzle of time with Field Blower to even get something going with this Mew, so I'll just find it later when I need it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if he plays Rescue Stretcher or ways to get Pokemon back.
Yeah, I think it's just that puzzle that'd be able to find it.
Yeah, just well, you're going to need two at once
yeah,
to be able to get
that's
it back,
right,
though.
yeah.
But there's another candy, goes into the Gardevoir. So he finally has all of his abilities live, actually, and able to be used. Not quite as many energy on the field as he probably would have liked at this point, but at least he's starting to be able to apply some pressure. If that Zoroark stays in the active spot, though, it is being knocked out.
Yeah, I think Philip here is definitely going to be looking for just a Fairy Energy or even a double colorless. Could start to apply a little bit of pressure with Guardy or with the Gallade. And he could get some fairly important damage down onto this Buzzwole. It does have a Fighting Fury belt, so 230 hit points is going to be pretty difficult for a Gardevoir to hit in a few turns.
Especially, as we said before, Buzzwole has only got that one energy on it. So I believe, 200, it's going to need 8 energy or equivalent with a Choice Band between them to be able to one-hit it.
That is a lot.
But this is a fairly decent strategy as well. To be able to deal 120 damage to it, soften it up, Gardevoir can come in and knock it out. Unfortunately, though, once his Zoroark GX goes down, there isn't a follow-up Zoroark GX to be able to use that sort of trade ability with. And it means that Gardevoir and Gallade are your only real attackers left.
Right. We do see Parallel City for Caleb. That can help him out a lot here. Even going to use it on himself and try to get rid of some of his less useful Pokemon, the Tapu Lele.
Yeah, they're Pokemon that can be Guzma'd later and then just taken 2 free prizes off them. So it's pretty clever just to get rid of those when you don't need them at all.
Yeah, and if he used it against Caleb, against Philip, he was just going to get rid of 2 Tapu Leles on his side. So it seems pretty helpful for him.
Does get an energy down on that Trubbish, threatening the Trashalanche if he has to absolutely go into that strategy. It's a pretty clever play, really. Just gives himself many more options, although I think Buzzwole's putting in a lot of work here at the moment.
Yeah, it's also very nice to split your energies up when you're playing against a Gardevoir deck. Third energy on his Buzzwole on the bench would have been actually pretty scary. He'd line himself up for a Guzma DCE knockout. So I like when he starts to separate these energies, and he sets himself up for hopefully finding Garbotoxin if you're a Caleb fan.
Yeah, whose side are you on? That's the thing. I think we have to be impartial, right?
That's right.
It's yeah, but what does Philip look for here as well now? I see a Parallel City. Unfortunately, when your opponent's played a Parallel City, you can't replace it with your own one, even if you do want to turn it around the other way.
That's right.
And he won't be able to get rid of that Parallel City unless he wastes the Field Blow on that as well. So he has to target either the Fury Belt, the Float Zone, or the Parallel City. I mean, it's not putting him in any harm. It just means that his Parallel Cities can't be used right now.
That's right. We are going to see a little extra damage spread. We do have to remember Caleb does play Espeon EX. He'd be able to de-evolve these Gardevoir and Gallade, and there's only a 60 hit point Ralts underneath those. No Kirlias, so starting to set up this damage, we could see what Caleb's going for in the future turns.
And even if he isn't able to get 60 damage down on the Gallade and the Gardevoir and then devolve them and take 2 prizes that way, it's still quite relevant to have that damage on just to soften it up. And also, how many rare candies can Philip possibly play? They're a finite resource.
That's right. He does have 4, and he could potentially get them off of double puzzle a time, but that's a lot to ask for, especially if Garbotoxin ever hits the board, which is something that I thought we'd already see by now, but Caleb has been struggling to find it.
Yeah, definitely, and especially since also Philip doesn't have any trade ability available to him anyway. So it's he's a little bit on the back foot, and it's funny how a slower turn 1 can really impact the rest of your game.
That's right. Well, it looks like Philip is going to get himself some nice damage onto this Buzzwole. However, it kind of walks into a Jet Punch on both of these Gallade and Gardevoir targets, which means Espeon could rear its head.
It's interesting that he chose to not knock out the one that was already damaged. Even with the Fighting Fury Belt, the Gallade still would knock out the Buzzwole. So why do you think that was, that he went for the fresher Buzzwole?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to set up multiple knockouts with his Gardevoir and just hope to sweep with that. Potentially even could start to bring up his Zoroark. If he can take a knockout on the Buzzwole with 2 energies, he doesn't have to worry about getting return KO'd by the Buzzwole with just 1 energy.
Yeah, definitely, and that concerning when you see a Buzzwole with 2 energies, especially when both of them are strong energies.
I would be worried about getting an absorption to the face.
Yeah, for sure. Or at this stage, even a knuckle impact would be just as potent. So sticking some damage down on that Gallade there, I think going for a similar strategy to what you were saying before, you know, that Espeon right now, if it came out, could put in a bit of work, especially if you can soften up the Zorua as well.
Yeah.
You can actually take 3 prizes in one turn with just 1 Espeon EX.
Yeah, it'd be very strong for Caleb. We are going to see Philip playing down the N and hopefully just disrupting Caleb. He's just trying to avoid ever seeing Garbotoxin. He needs his abilities if he wants to stay in this game.
And I wonder if that's in the back of his mind, you know, the fact that he had to throw away that Field Blower early and whether he has 1 left in deck and that's his only option.
Yeah.
He has to use it at exactly the right time, get maximum value. And I like here how Caleb's also putting down the number of cards he has in his hand just to let his opponent know.
Yep, just save some time. Every extra second, minute counts when you're playing in games. We've seen how fast Tord played to get himself a win earlier, and if Caleb's just going to save himself that little bit of time there.
Couple of interesting cards in Philip's hand. Enhanced Hammer. Quite strong. You know, you're not going to see a knuckle impact out of a Pokemon that has 0 energy attached to it unless there's some fluky triple max elixir play or some energy switches going on.
Yeah.
And then he also has an Evo Soda, which quite interesting really in a deck that doesn't run the Curlier.
Yeah, this is something that I talked to with a few players that were playing this deck, and they just said, I'll just get my Zoroark, and Zoroark will get everything else. But when you're playing against Buzzwole and you didn't get many Zorua down, that means that it's just a dead card for you there.
So Philip there elected to use the Enhanced Hammer on the Rainbow Energy on the Trubbish on the bench.
Yep.
He's recognizing that, you know, you probably have a limited number of these Rainbow Energy, and I don't ever want you to get Trashalanche because it can be so powerful, and probably because he has so many items in the discard pile.
Right, and this also might force Caleb to bring up the Buzzwole GX, and that will take the knockout on the Gallade, which matches up pretty perfectly with the Gardevoir that is on the bench right now. He doesn't want to deal with Trashalanche, doesn't have a clean answer to that just yet, and would really rather just start to work on this Buzzwole.
And it's certainly much nicer to take 2 prizes than it is to take 1.
That's right. Well, we do see Ultra Ball. This
could this be for the Garbotoxin?
Yeah, he could grab Garbotoxin. We could see if he has any supporter card, really. He could start working on that Espeon play, but I think he just wants to lock out these abilities now.
Yeah, which is going to make it much more difficult for Philip to find what he needs. He can't trade away cards that he, doesn't want to get 2 more and to thin his deck out. And it also means he can't Infinite Force either and start stacking energy on different Pokemon.
And wow, look at this. He did not have very much in his hand, but Acerola was a perfect card for that Buzzwole. Able to pick it back up and then play it all back down. Perfect math right now for the Gallade knockout.
Yeah, definitely. So that'll be dealing 60 damage, I believe.
Yeah, he's going to be able to take the knockout here, and now it's just a question of does he give up any of this Espeon stuff, or does he want to just put some more damage on this Guardy and hope to knock it out with potentially a Trashalanche in the future?
Yeah, definitely.
That math could be relevant.
Philip does have options. I believe he has Double Puzzle. He has Energy. I think there's a Rescue Stretcher as well. Oh, no, it's an Ultra Ball. So he does have options available to him, and he will have an open bench slot now to put down a new Pokemon if he wants to. But I don't see him getting down enough energy to be able to knock out this clean Buzzwole.
Yeah, he may be able to line up a Mew play. He does have Riotous Beating available to him.
The only issue with that is now we have Garbotoxin.
Yeah, so he would have to be able to use the Double Puzzle, find that Field Blower and the Mew, and then have the rest of the pieces available to him.
I mean, he has 1 energy. Can always get another.
Yeah.
That's what you can do with that Secret Spring ability.
That's right.
But we'll see if that lines up for him. He does have an Ultra Ball. Does he have access to another Lele to be able to get a supporter? He does run 3. There are 2 in play.
Yeah, looks like he's eyeing up quite a few cards. He doesn't know what exactly to grab with this puzzle time, double puzzle here.
So I guess the question is, do you double puzzle first or do you trade first?
Well, he has to have the field blower first.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So he's gonna have to do it, unfortunately.
That's probably not what you want to be puzzle of timing for.
Yeah, just so that you can start to trade, and you don't know if you're gonna have everything you need to complete this big knockout.
Yeah, it's going to require quite a few pieces, but he can get a few of them right now. And then if he can then, once he has access to abilities, if he can then Ultra Ball again for a Lele to use one to tag, this is why those abilities are so important. He goes for the Enhanced Hammer and the Field Blower.
I think I really like this play. He knows that Caleb doesn't have much going on in his hand. He just used Acerola and played down the Buzzwole right back, and he only got one prize card, so... if that prize card wasn't relevant, if his top deck isn't relevant, he might just pass with a Buzzwole.
And there's no energy in play either.
That's right.
So it's pretty difficult. And he's saying, okay, I've got another routes. I can get Candy, I can get Gardevoir, because remember, Zoroark gets you everything.
Yeah.
And so he can set up another Gardevoir, and that creates another attacker that is viable in this matchup.
Yeah, and Philip wisely spotting that he might have some time here, and he's going to go ahead and use his GX attack for the game. Twilight's going to grab him 10 of these great cards that he's already used.
We were having a discussion about this at the Euro IC, actually, the most recent one, about Twilight GX being one of the most difficult attacks in the game to be able to use.
Yes.
You have to first know when to use it, and then what combination of 10 cards to get back that are going to benefit you the most. If you get the wrong cards, it can actually hinder you. You'll draw into cards that you didn't quite need. I like how he's just getting back 4 puzzle of time. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, those are pretty good. They've definitely done the job for him. And those double colorless energy, they look fantastic as well. He's going to need those in order to keep up with what Caleb's got.
And certainly, of course, the field blowers as well is an essential piece. It's probably one of the main reasons he's using Twilight GX now, to make sure he's not locked out from those abilities again. Looks like, yeah, he just got Puzzle of Times, DCEs, Gardevoir, Field Blower. I think only I saw one Field Blower, which is interesting, but...
Yeah, I think he just had the one in there from the very beginning, the opening turn on the Fury Belt. I don't know if he's been able to play one
and of course, and then he got it back with the Puzzle of Times. So yeah, they're the cards that he's going to hopefully be able to trade into and see if that works for him, I guess. I think he also got back a Professor Sycamore, so maybe, needing some supporters to get himself going. This deck does only run 2, which is very unusual. Decks used to run 4. It used to be a 4 of. It'd be 4N, 4 Sycamore. What else are you going to play?
Right.
But... yeah, typically cutting those Sycamores, often from Mallow. Mallow is something that synergizes really well with Zoroark, so I think that's a very good inclusion in this deck. And obviously people are playing much higher counts of Guzma and Bridget as well now. They're taking up those supporter slots.
That's right. And Mallow, it can find him the cards he needs, like Field Blower, but you're kind of playing a risky game when your opponent could just end that right back off the top of your deck.
Yeah, for sure. So here we see Caleb's able to get down that Floatstone straight away again, so he's put Philip right under the pressure. Yeah,
that was definitely big for Caleb, having that Sycamore. Philip played a pretty risky game. He said, I don't think you have any cards, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be able to take this Twilight turn, but Caleb's going to try to punish him. He drew into a lot of fairly good cards for him, even has that Espeon and an Energy. Don't know if he has a way to retreat just yet, but we could see that Gardevoir come off the table.
I wonder if Espeon, if this is the optimal time to use the Espeon. Not that he can put it down, actually, at the moment, because he is under Parallel City Lock.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he's limited right now from Philip.
So his attacking options really are that Buzzwole, and he's going to have to spend one of his 4 Rainbow Energy on that.
Yep, and that 10 extra damage can be pretty relevant when you're playing against Gardevoir. You just played into double colorless Choice Band. Not that you had a choice, though.
Yeah, if you know your 30 times tables, there you go. It makes it a lot easier for Gardevoir to get that knockout. Just 6 energy between them, or 5 in a Choice Band would be enough. It would be possibly a bit greedy at this point, though, to then put down that DCE and that Secret Spring, just a fairy energy, but who knows? He needs to get himself back in this game, and what would it leave Caleb with? Not much.
That's right. Well, it looks like Philip is going to be using that Mallow. I have to assume that Field Blower is one of the pieces, but I don't think he has a way to draw anything. He's using the supporter for the turn, so going to have to play that risky game of, do you have N? I hope not.
Isn't that all Pokemon games?
Yes. Usually a few more prizes have been taken before we start worrying about that, but Yeah, they are already at this stage when you're playing against Garbodor decks. They slow the game down so much.
Yeah, definitely. And they've sort of been out of the format, in format, but out of the meta for a while.
Right.
I think a lot of people were thinking about playing Garbodor with the Garbotoxin ability at this event, just because there were so many abilities running around, and people have really reduced the number of Field Blower they play in their decks in response to that reduction in Garbotoxin Garbodors running around.
Yep, and Caleb was welcoming that punish. He had everything ready when he made this deck, and he's found a pretty good spot in the metagame for himself.
Yeah, definitely. What does he look to do this turn? I mean, he's got Philip under ability lock, which is quite, as we said, quite powerful.
Yeah.
Does he look to put more energy onto the active Buzzwole, or does he start to load up the bench Buzzwole?
I think he Acerolos. I think he's going to try to just reset and get a little more damage down. He could knock out that bench Ralts. And yeah, it looks like that's what he's going to eye up here. He can just play this all right back down.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he has a better energy. Maybe he has a strong energy. That'd be nice.
I mean, now there's an available bench spot, so he could use that Espeon, but I don't think it's perhaps the most optimal time to do so. You probably want to clear off the... but he's going to go for it.
Don't tell Caleb, because he's ready now, and he's going to go for it.
And this is why I'm casting, and I'm not at 3-0.
It's working out pretty well for him. He's going to be able to remove this Gardevoir, goes back into the hand of Philip along with that Zoroark, and Ralts goes down. More importantly, those energies go away, which has been pretty difficult for Philip. Hasn't had too many to apply pressure. Yeah,
he's restricted to just putting down one per turn, one energy attachment a turn with that Garbotoxin live. But, I mean, Espeon's not a threatening attacker otherwise, so I'm not sure.
You gotta respect Psyshock. You get a couple basic fighting energy on there, and you can work some magic, knock out a Gallade or something.
Yeah, a couple of turns later, you're doing, 70 damage?
Yeah, it's not much. I've done it once, and it was probably a losing effort anyway.
Bit of a desperation play. But if he can get a few energy down on that Buzzwole, he now has bought himself a little bit of time, Caleb has, to set up that Buzzwole, and there are 2 prizes sitting on the bench for Buzzwole, and they're called Zoroark GX.
That's right. We also... Philip has played his Twilight already. He's using Sycamore. This means that maybe candies are going to be a pretty limited resource of Philip if they've already hit the discard pile. It could be difficult to see this Ralts ever evolve, and that's just a free prize for Caleb on the other side with a Jet Punch. Even perhaps a double knockout if he could combine the Zorua and the Ralts with a Guzma.
I guess the Zoroark gets you everything strategy doesn't work so well when Zoroark can't work.
Yeah, he kind of has to be able to trade first. We're blocking that invisible hand for him.
But we're back to the Lele's being in the active spot doing that damage. So again, not just being that support Pokemon, but putting in some work with damage dealt. He's got to look for a way to probably get rid of that Espeon in the active spot and maybe just start dealing damage with the Buzzwole. Yeah. Alternatively, he could set up the Buzzwole just to take a knockout and finish the game on that Tapu Lele or that Zoroark later and just let that Espeon just sit there and get knocked out.
Yeah, curious to see what Caleb goes with here. He might be pretty limited with what he has available. This is something that happens when you're playing a Garbodor deck. You aren't playing too much on drawing cards. You're kind of just hoping to get there. And yeah, even seeing a Lily for 3, just hoping to draw a few more cards, able to find Floatstone and a strong... that means he can start to get some pretty solid attacks in, maybe remove that Ralts.
I'd be interested to see how many items are actually in Philip's discard pile, because that Trashalanche Garbodor has just come down into play, and it could actually sweep the game itself. We might not even have to worry about Buzzwole.
Yeah, that can be very relevant in this matchup. If he's able to just sweep with that Trashalanche at the very end. You have to think that Philip's played a lot of items by now.
Yeah, certainly. Although he put, I think, only 5 of them back in with his Twilight GX.
A lot of the puzzle pieces, yeah. But I'm sure there's plenty still left in there.
Seen a few Ultra Balls go down there.
Yeah,
so
Caleb just grabbed the discard pile, and it took 2 hands to sort through there. So
it's got to be a few energy.
Yeah.
A few item cards. There's the Field Blower, so that's the one that he's
very good.
Been looking for. Means he can use abilities this turn. So that is opening up that trade option, and if he can get a second Zoroark GX into play, that's the second trade.
Yep, that means that he can start to find some pieces, but with no Ralts, is his best attacker Tapu Lele at this point? Does he just push in with Zoroark and ignore the weakness to Buzzwole?
I mean, we're going to have to see. I think it will come down to whether Caleb actually has a way to attack with that Trashalanche. If he just has the energy, first of all, and then maybe the Guzma. He can just pick off that Zorua if it doesn't evolve. He does have one prize card left versus Philip's 4, so that's a bit of an uphill struggle for Philip there.
That's right. I think Philip actually has a line where he can start to use Enhance Hammer and chain it with the Puzzle of Time and just remove all the energies from Caleb's side of the board. And if Caleb never finds energy again, then you have to think that Philip's the winner.
I mean, he only runs 2 basic energy, so
That's
as long
right.
as the special energy can be discarded, he's going to struggle. And there are those 2 Puzzle of Times we were just talking about.
Yep, he was able to put those to the top with Mallow, and now he just has to decide what's going to be the most impactful use of these cards. It looks like he's eyeing up Mew and double colorless. That's a great way to remove this Buzzwole.
Yeah, and then we're going to see a Riotous Beating for enough damage.
That's right.
Even with the Fury Belt, actually.
Yep. Also,
coupled with the Enhanced Hammer, that's pretty good.
That's really great. That means that Acerola is no longer a winning card. We would have been able to bring that Rainbow Energy back up and then play it back down with his Trash Lance Garbodor.
Does mean that Espeon is then a win condition. Interestingly, though, if Caleb can actually get another tool onto that Garbodor, the Garbodor that has Garbotoxin, Mew won't actually be able to copy any of the Pokemon's attacks just because that is its ability. It's not actually an attack itself. Its ability is to copy other Pokemon's attacks. So here we're going to see a Rescue Stretcher. What is he looking to get back? Tapu Lele's?
Yeah, I feel like he might just grab Tapu Lele and go and grab any supporter, really, and then just throw it away with Sycamore and try to find that Rainbow Energy. And if he finds that, he wins. So if Tapu Lele is able to just get 1 card out of his deck that he's not going to draw into, then it's doing its job. We see 1 rainbow, 2 rainbow.
Oh, an N. Is that the support he's going to have to choose?
I don't know if he's going to play it, though, because he's got, it looks like 13 cards. Sycamore trying to find the rainbow. He could just win the game right there. 2 of them in the deck.
But I'd argue that perhaps if he loses, if he doesn't hit the Rainbow Energy, a Riotous Beating coming in, or any Pokemon, even the Mew itself, hitting that Espeon EX, that's the game in Philip's favor.
That's right. I guess if he does use Sycamore and finds any tool, he could start to lock out abilities. So that's a backup plan, but he's going for it.
Oh, straight away. There we are. So it's the Trash Lance for the win. A few cards we haven't seen in a while, which is both those Garbodors. They've just dropped off the sort of face of the meta, I guess. And they're sort of rotating it back around. I'd argue the same of Gardevoir. Gardevoir, very big, very heavily played at the European International Championships. Dropped off the radar for a while people had fun with their Zoroark Gallipods and Lycanroc Zoroark decks. And then people thought, hey, Gardevoir was really good. Let's bring it back.
Right. Why did we stop playing this card?
I mean, but these guys showing us, it is strong, it is good, and it can go with Zoroark.
Yeah, I feel like Caleb played that fantastically. He was able to find the perfect spots, even when that Parallel City was limiting his bench. He found a way to play down his Espeon, remove the Gardevoir, and he never had to worry about any return knockouts from that point. He had already removed most of his threats and was able to set up that Trash Lance. And he only had 2 Trubbish that whole game.
Yeah.
So imagine what he can do with 4.
Another thing with that Garbodor is the Trash Lance Garbodor is only a 1 prize. I'd say liability. It's not really a liability, but it's just a 1 prize Pokemon that when they knock it out, puts them in a bit of a, it's not even prizes. A lot of people want to take out 3 GX or EX Pokemon and take those clean 6 prizes, but it means they're going to have to take an additional knockout to be able to win the game. So it just kind of isn't really the Pokemon you want to be knocking out, but it can come in and do like 280 damage.
Exactly.
Ridiculous things.
Yeah,
so.
When you get knocked out by a Trash Lance Garbodor and you then have to return knock it out, you feel like you should have taken 2 prize cards.
Yeah, for sure.
That thing is really good, especially late in the game.
And it's only punishing you for you using your items, which is even the worst part.
Right.
So you have to think very carefully, like, do I really want to play this Max Elixir? Or is it going to come back to bite me later? I assume Philip will opt to go first. I think there are very few matchups in which you would opt to go second, and this is probably not one of them, which is Stage 2 deck.
Yeah, I think he's going to take that advantage. Both players now setting down their prize cards for us.
So how does this play out differently? So how does Philip get a win here? I'd say a turn 1, get some more Pokemon down is probably a good start.
I think it doesn't start with prizing your Mew.
Yeah.
That's a big card for him to knock out Buzzwoles, and that's definitely going to affect him. I think he just really needs to set up his original strategy. He's got the Ultra Ball now, so can just go ahead and Lele for Bridget and start to work. He knows he's going to get at least 1 turn of trade, and if that trade starts to find a Field Blower, then he can almost negate everything that Garbodor's doing, and Potentially find a Guzma, knock out that Garbodor. So much can happen.
Yeah, and aside from looking through his deck for that Bridget and for that Lele before you make that decision, he's probably also looking for Field Blower and Puzzle of Times.
And Mew.
And Mew, of course.
Where are you, buddy? I need you.
I wonder also if he can get the Parallel City down first, if that will be impactful. Because I know that, once one player plays it, it's just a dead card in the opponent's deck.
Absolutely. It's very big. And I don't think Caleb focuses too much on Field Blower, being that he is a Garbodor deck. He only plays one. So if you get the first Parallel City down, it's going to stay.
Yeah, and I mean, the only stadium you run is Parallel City, so you can't replace it with something else.
It doesn't work too well for you.
Unfortunately. But taking a bit of time just to have a look through through his deck, Philip, it's what the better players tend to do. They really want to know exactly what their 6 prizes are, and you can usually have a pretty good idea of what you run in your deck, so you can pretty easily see, I only have one Lele available or whatnot, and he's probably looking and going, I do run a Mew. Where is it?
That's right, yeah. He's also, I don't know if his pace of play is what you want to see out of a player who's down a game in a match with only 15 minutes. He's got 16 minutes, and right now it looks like he'd be on pace to, even if he has a great game here, just find a tie, and I'm sure that he's looking for something different out of this game.
Definitely. I feel like almost every match we've seen on stream actually at this point has been a tie, so
that's right.
it'd be nice to see a winner. But passes, and he is actually recognizing, if I can play a lot of pressure with this Lele, 40 damage is nothing to scoff at. It can become 60 or 80 quite quickly. If you can't get Pokemon down, I'm just going to start putting down a lot of damage onto you.
Yeah, and Tapu Lele with double colorless energies is a great way to slow down a Buzzwole. They don't want to bring up a Pokemon that's getting hit for 100 if you're just going to do it with the Tapu Lele and start using your setup.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there's no other options to put energy on at this point. He doesn't need to put an energy onto a Zorua. He doesn't need to put an energy onto a Ralts. So why not just apply this pressure with Tapu Lele?
Yeah, very strong play.
And we're seeing from Caleb now probably a similar play to what Philip did, which is just Ultra Ball away a couple of cards that I potentially won't necessarily need, or that are the least valuable in my hand at the moment. Get a Lele, get a Bridget. Probably the optimal start.
Right. We saw even when Caleb had multiple Ultra Ball and could have dropped his hand down very low for his Lily, he decided to go for this Bridget. So when he only has one Ultra Ball, I'm assuming he's going for that Bridget as well.
Yeah, definitely. Not this lone Buzzwole shenanigans. But getting rid of that Rainbow Energy, potentially hurtful. Just because you only have 4, and they are what you need to be able to attack with Trashalanche. You do have, believe he has Puzzle of Time to be able to get it back? He doesn't run Puzzle of Time.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I just feel like I've seen so much of it today that everyone's running it.
Yeah, so when that resource hits the discard pile, it is gone.
He does look like he's choosing the Buzzwole, though.
That's an interesting line here. I don't know what else he has in his hand. If he has Floatstone, maybe he can start to get a little aggressive.
It could be that the Bridget's prized.
That also could happen. That's what happens when you're only playing one Bridget and one Lily. We're so used to all these Zoroark decks playing 3 Bridget, so maybe we did get a little greedy.
You can just discard them whenever you want. That's what trade's for, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So looking at playing Buzzwole, Strong Energy. Plays the Espeon.
He's got Lily in
hand. Yeah, looks like he has Lily.
Yeah, that'll work out fairly well for him.
He's eyeing a Guzma. And just saying, all right, no, get rid of that Floatstone, get rid of that Zorua, and let's put some more damage down on the board.
Yeah, Caleb is actually playing like the player who lost the opening game. He's going very aggressive, and I don't know if he needs to play this fast, but I don't see any reason not to right now. If Philip isn't able to get a Zoroark into play, you could remove both Zoroarks, and then you're just fighting a couple Ralts. I feel like that's a favorable matchup.
Yeah, for sure. Not putting that 30 damage onto that Zorua is interesting, but I'm sure he has a game plan. Philip here is going to need to get, because he doesn't run Curliers, Rare Candy and Gardevoir at the same time here.
Yeah.
He's probably also looking for a Zoroark GX. It's going to help him get more pieces.
A Mew would be cool if it wasn't in the prize cards.
Yeah, he wishes.
He would be in a pretty great spot. But it looks like just the Sycamore form here.
I was going to say, alternatively, if only he could have played only one on the board, you get out this turn. It means that Garbotoxin's not coming out for at least another 2 turns.
Yeah, that would be
unfortunately,
a fantastic spot.
He's playing the Sycamore here. I'm just going to revolve Routes into a Zoroark GX.
That would be pretty impressive. You could get save the Ralts that has 30 damage on it. But no, I don't think that's legal.
He's putting down another Zorua. He actually had to trade away a Zoroark GX, which is a little bit painful.
Yeah.
He does run 4 though, so I'm sure he'll find another one. And that's just a 60 from the Tapu Lele.
Well, big top deck here for Caleb. He's able to find a Professor Sycamore, so it can get fairly aggressive with this Buzzwole. Did have Lily, so he was going to find maybe 4 or 5 cards, but I'll pick 7.
Yeah. Always better to have more.
And,
What's he going to find here?
I'm
He's
sure
looking
he
for
wants a
Floatstone.
tool. Yeah.
He'd probably go with the Fighting Fury Belt at this point. And
That's
he does
right.
find one.
Just anything. Just lock this out.
He does find one. I mean, usually when you put something that's not a Floatstone onto a Garbodor, it's a problem for you. In the past, it used to be able to be an option that you could stall in the active spot, but because there's so many Guzma now, it's not so much of a problem.
Right. When it was just Lysander, it was very... it could be a big issue, but with Guzma letting you get out of the active spot, you can just bounce around whenever you need to.
Yeah. You can take those liberties and just put superfluous Fighting Fury Belts onto those Garbodors.
Mm-hmm. Not going to get the health bump, unfortunately.
No. It does what it needs to do, though, I think, in this
right.
matchup for sure.
Well, this is a spot for Philip to potentially get a little aggressive. If he has Choice Band, he could maybe even find a knockout on this Buzzwole.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Tapu Lele putting in work again. It's 20, 40, 60, 80, 110 damage. If you can chuck down a Choice Band, but not seeing one in hand. He gets another Zoroark GX, which means he will be able to look at...
If he has a Field Blower, of course. That Garbodor locked in.
It's been away for so long.
I know. What are you doing over there?
Even there. Yeah.
He's such a jerk.
Now locking people out, but energy onto the Tapu Lele, so it looks like he's just going for a Tapu Lele strategy here.
And just imagine if Caleb's able to find a card like Acerola right here. He'd be able to remove all this damage and continue this
honestly heartbreaking
big pressure.
Seeing a Carbink, I believe that's a Fates Collide Carbink in Caleb's hand there.
Yeah, a little nod to all the wall decks.
Yeah, definitely.
Not going to be too impactful here, I guess.
So instead of the Acerola, looks like he puts down the Fighting Fury Belt just to give that Buzzwole a little more endurance.
Yeah, could actually buy a turn or two now. Remove the use the Enhance Hammer to remove the double colorless energy. So maybe Philip's going to have a difficult time finding energy cards.
And if he's going to use Jet Punch, always good to pressure that Ralts on the bench as well. If it doesn't become a Gardevoir anytime soon, it's going to be knocked out.
Carbink does make its debut. And this is a very big spot for Caleb. He's going to get to put pressure on that Ralts.
Yeah, it's really saying to Philip, there's the Field Blower.
That's a big draw right there for Philip. He's going to get to use his trades now.
We got to see if he can get the Rare Candy and the Gardevoir. Has the Gardevoir. Has an Evo Soda, which is not going to get him there.
Yeah, there's no
Max
Curlius.
Potion. Max Potion will keep the Tapu Lele alive for now, or alternatively the Ralts, depending on which one you value more.
Yep.
Does have Mallow though, and he has only used one trade, so he will be able to get into that Rare Candy that he needs.
Yeah, I know he's going to grab that Rare Candy. Just interested on what the second card for him is going to be there. Maybe he preemptively grabs another Field Blower, hoping that in the future turns he can use his trades.
Yeah, definitely. He'll probably be looking in there and saying, okay, do I have 2? Alternatively, another supporter. I don't believe he has another supporter in his hand.
Right.
And, as good as trade is, you can't rely on it, especially when your opponent can just stick down a tool anytime and block you out of it. There's the Max Potion there. Resets for the DCE.
Candy Gardevoir, so...
and energy to boot.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
that's a pretty strong turn, also getting the knockout onto the Buzzwole.
Again, we do have only 8 minutes left. But at this point, Philip could start applying a lot of pressure with that Gardevoir. The only issue is if that Espeon sitting there on the bench is pretty threatening. If Caleb's able to get another 30 damage down with Jet Punch, that Espeon comes in and says, get another Rare Candy, get another Ralts, go again.
He doesn't have it this turn, but potentially Guzma onto a Zoroark and getting some damage onto that Gardevoir. You could set up double knockouts, even triple if he gets it onto the second Zoroark. Yeah,
definitely. With that Zoro with just having the 60 HP, it gets buffed quite a lot when it becomes a Zoroark GX, but you got to remember that the basic's very vulnerable to damage there.
That's right. Caleb now, off these 4 cards, needs to find a tool, you'd think, or else this game could just flip around.
I mean, it also depends on what Philip draws here, but again, with those trades, he does find the Floatstone.
That is a huge draw for Caleb. He needed to lock out those abilities, but what else does he have? He's just going to pass with Carbink and hope to buy a little bit of time, and in that time he needs Philip never to find double puzzle or a field blower.
And you got to think if he had it, he'd have played it straight away.
Absolutely.
So I think he's just looking at his hand and saying, do I have options here?
He's got Mallow. He could put a piece of it on top and just hope it stays.
Yeah, no, there's
Your
no
opponent
end in
only has
response.
2 cards, yeah.
We're going to have to see. I think that's 1 field blower in the discard.
He could retreat and use his Twilight GX. This seems like a pretty good turn. This is very similar to when he used it in the first game. Caleb on a low hand, no energies, not doing too much, and it could just use this Gardevoir right now.
I mean, yeah, exactly. When you're not under so much pressure from attacks, Twilight GX is quite good. I mean, I wouldn't use it now that Mallow's been used at all.
It wouldn't make too much sense now, but I guess he's going to just put that puzzle piece on top and hope those 2 cards don't have N.
Yeah, I think Mallow also, Twilight GX is also best used perhaps when the deck size is smaller, because you know you'll draw into those pieces that you've just put in. Whereas right now he has such a large deck size that could draw anything out of what he puts back in, or cards that are already there.
That's right, and maybe he just hasn't used the resources he wants to. Really, it's just been that 1 field blower that I think would be impactful.
Yeah, definitely, and there is a second live in the deck that he will be able to use. But it's interesting that Caleb has just sent out the Energy Keeper Carbink as the sacrificial lamb here.
Yeah.
Doesn't really mind if he gets knocked out.
It buys a little bit of time. It's only a 1 prize knockout, so not terrible.
Yeah, and it takes a 2-shot from that Tapu Lele, so it's done its job.
Holding strong. Yeah, he could buy a little more time. He's got that Fighting Fury belt even, but maybe that's too precious a resource when you see your opponent play Mallow. And
probably better off being put onto a Buzzwole. But you're right, that's interesting. Given that Philip has played Mallow, he probably did put a field blower on the top. I wonder if it's the Fighting Fury belts, should be kept in hand or should be played.
Yeah, with the Sycamore, I guess he just knows it's going somewhere. He wants to play that Sycamore this turn, but he is going to lose a few pieces now. I guess the Parallel does help here. Maybe Philip is forced to remove the Floatstone and the Parallel instead of the Fury Belt onto the Buzzwole, so that could be a little more impactful now. Yeah,
it does mean that he probably won't be getting out a second Gardevoir anytime soon, unless he can get rid of that Parallel City. He's stuck with the 4 Pokemon that he has. Not that they are terrible Pokemon to have, given that you have Secret Spring and whatnot.
And double puzzle and a bunch of great stuff going on.
Yeah, for sure. And this is likely going to hit a Field Blower just to give him his abilities back this turn, and Sycamore just to draw into what he needs.
Yeah, this is a very great turn for him.
But I still wonder. I mean, we are under the clock. There are only 5 minutes left. He does only have to take 4 prizes, but it's going a bit slowly. There's going to be 1 taken here, and Caleb could hold out. Yeah,
it's only 4.5 minutes. I don't know how much Philip's going to be able to do. He does have that Mew now. He was able to draw it off his prize cards, I suppose, and back into the hand. So we could see Buzzwole potentially knocked out in a big swing in the coming turns.
I do think that Espeon EX as well is such a threat. I know it doesn't seem like one sitting there, but for
it's
1
scary,
energy, yeah, for sure. For 1 energy, it could really take out all of Philip's big Pokemon.
Yeah, we could see him even Guzma target down that Espeon. It has the psychic weakness as well.
But I think this turn we're going to see Philip probably just knock out the Carbink. I think it's a
fair assumption.
And then we have the Mew EX, and that's that threat that took, I believe, many prizes over the last game. And it will come in and take many more, I'm sure, in this one.
Yeah, it's been very big throughout this international championship so far.
So here we see a Twilight GX. Again, recognizing not under too much pressure. Pretty unlikely that Caleb's going to get off, a giant Knuckle Impact or even an Absorption GX right now. I don't think is enough to knock out the Gardevoir.
Right.
Even with the Fury Belt. So it's just going to take this time to shuffle in 10 cards. Probably a few of them being items, knowing that Trashalanche might be coming out. A couple of puzzles, a couple of field blowers, max potions. These are all great cards that you want to see late in the game that are going to give you that durability, an ability to win at the end.
That's right. He's Philip even keeping an eye on those rare candies, seeing if maybe I should play around this Espeon because last time it really did do just enough work to take him out of the game.
Yeah, definitely. And also that Trashalanche. It's always a threat. It's just a 1 energy and it's a 1 evolution. Could just come in and sweep a Pokemon.
That's right.
So I believe it's now Caleb's turn. That GX move obviously is your attack. He's not doing any damage. Doesn't really mind if there's a Carbink in the active spot. It's not really too threatening.
Right. And this does, when Philip takes this turn to just pass, I think Caleb was expecting his Carbink to be knocked out. So does he have a way to get out of the active spot? Does he want to waste an energy to retreat? It's I think this turn, he just doesn't want to do.
I think this turn he has to knock out the Mew EX. I think that's sort of a priority, and probably getting down another tool. That Mew is so threatening. But he does play an Acerola.
Wow, yeah, look at that. He used the Rainbow Energy to put some damage onto his Buzzwole just because he needed to find the tool. And the only tool he had was on the Buzzwole, able to put it over to the Garbotoxin. And now Philip needs to start to find those tools. He was likely going to draw into all those Field Blowers with the Zoroarks. Now his abilities are shut off.
Yeah, difficult choice here. Caleb's wondering, what do I get off my bench? Paralocity's putting me down to 3 cards. Obviously, you keep the Garbodor. He's going to keep another Trubbish, probably for a Trashalanche option or another Garbotoxin. And he's kept the Buzzwole instead of the Espeon EX, so that play we were talking about before is not going to go through. But that is another way to get rid of Garbotoxin. Just knock out the Garbodor.
Yeah, that worked out fantastic. Caleb with a smart play to set up the Garbodor, but Philip did have the Guzma available. Zoroark is coming in very strong. It's doesn't have to worry about its weakness if Caleb has no energies. So he can get fairly aggressive right now, doing 120 damage, and it's just enough to take out that Garbotoxin.
But here we see Garbotoxin again, and if he can get a tool again, I think that will be very few turns that Philip hasn't been forced to find the Field Blower or forced to find a way to get his abilities back online.
Yeah, he'd have to find another Guzma even now, too, if he wanted to get rid of that Garbodor, potentially.
And hopefully we can see an energy out of Caleb as well, so we can start applying a little bit of pressure to that Zoroark. I mean, it's not that great to just have Pokemon hitting into you and you're doing nothing back,
Yeah.
unless, of course, you're just like a wall deck or whatever. But, yeah, he does find that strong energy, and he will hit Zoroark GX for weakness. That is a bit of pressure. It means he can also apply a bit of pressure to that Mew EX as well, if he so chooses. It'd be nice to soften it up so he can just knock it out, and it won't come in and knock out that Buzzwole in one hit.
Yeah, and I thought we were going to potentially see Tapu Lele, but maybe he just is out of them at this stage. For a second, he eyed up that Carbink Break, and now he's just going to grab the Trubbish. So I think this is a nod to Trashalanche. He wants to be able to have an attacker to finish the game. Maybe Buzzwole's not going to be able to take him the whole way. Mm-hmm. Or he just wants to have an answer for if Caleb finds that Guzma again.
And we are coming close to when it will be soon into time. So at this point, does Caleb play to win, or does he play to not lose? So time is just being called. Well,
being that he's up a game, I would hope that he just tries to remove the GXs off of his board, and Philip wouldn't be able to win. If Philip can't one-shot this GX and take a normal knockout on a non-GX or EX Pokemon, then that means Caleb wins.
Excellent, and that's where that Carbink Break comes into play. It gives it that extra HP, so that Carbink can live a little longer.
That's right. But it looks like Caleb did miss a tool, so this means that Philip is going to have his abilities, and that means that Mew could potentially come up and take out this Buzzwole.
So Philip has 2 turns now to take 3 prizes to even up the games in this series, and then take a tie rather than a loss. So he needs to get a knockout this turn. It looks like he will be able to if he can get the Zoroark out of the active spot. That Mew will come in and knock out that Buzzwole, take 2 prizes, and then he just needs to knock out anything else to take this game.
Yeah, he's set it up perfectly for himself. If he's able to knock out this Buzzwole this turn, he doesn't have to worry about Caleb using Rainbow Energy and Acerola to pick up that Buzzwole and then make sure that there's no way for Philip to take all 6 prize cards. So getting rid of it now would be fantastic for him. Just needs to have the Floatstone, and I think I see it in his hand.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to have to see it. We'll see a trade here to get 2 cards. Still wants to put himself in the best position for the next turns as well. He's still at risk of an opposing N, putting him down to 1 card after he takes this knockout. It's potentially quite threatening. I know you have trades, but they can only get you so far. And you could be drawing into cards that you absolutely just don't want to see and that aren't going to win you the game.
Yeah, right. He does get to bring an extra energy into play with his Gardevoir's ability. So set up a secondary attacker if Mew were to be knocked out, potentially by a card like Trashalanche. So Philip really thinking of everything right now, just wants to make sure that no matter what, he's going to be able to take one prize card on his final turn of the game, which will be his next turn.
Yeah, you really have to think a couple of steps ahead in these situations. Playing Ultra Ball to get rid of cards that if you're end, you don't want to pick up that Ultra Ball, you don't want to pick up that Route. It's not useful right now.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, trying to thin his hand, get a few pieces together that are going to help him win, rather than just miss out. Double Puzzle look like it's going to come down now.
Yeah, just going to go ahead and use it now. You can find the Field Blowers, maybe find some cards that could win him the game, potentially like Guzma, if he is Guzma'd himself and stuck in the active spot with a Pokemon that can't win the game.
Yeah, definitely, which would be very few of them at this stage, but given the lack of energy he might have available to him, something like a Zoroark could just be stuck there.
Yeah.
And here comes the Mew, and it's going to take two prizes with Rider Speeding. Puts Philip down to one prize card. All he needs to do is knock out anything next turn. And having a look at Caleb's hand, it's not thrilling.
Yeah, he has Field Blower, he has Rainbow Energy, and he found a Guzma. So the play of stalling and trying to wait out Philip, I think Philip just showed that there's no way that you aren't going to get a knockout here. And that means that both players they're going to tie. Philip was able to take this game, game 2, and both players are going to get one match point.
So is that the curse of being on stream? If you're not Tord Reclave, you're going to tie.
You got to play really fast. If you're not throwing cards aggressively at your opponent and the board, there's no way that you're going to get a win.
Yeah, I mean, time is a really big factor in a lot of these games. Better players really need to be aware of the clock. You got to make sure that you can win